as a CEO, when you look at that, how do you manage giving away that control?
It doesn't come naturally to most entrepreneurs, I can tell you that.
Right.
That ability and realization, because it really is a decision more about yourself than it is about your team. Am I prepared to hire people who are better than me? Can I get people better than me, which some people are not? Can I get people better than me excited to come work for me? And then, can I get these people aligned towards, a common goal where they actually help set that goal? So I think it starts with deciding, and it's almost an existential decision as an entrepreneur. Do I want to be sort of a lone wolf or the alpha, even the alpha dog here in this pack? Or am I prepared to put my ego aside and form a team that maybe will even take us in a direction that I didn't even know we're going to, and maybe I don't even agree with, but I can go along with.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Podium Stories. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Marti. He's the CEO of SUMA. I think you guys are going to find this interview very interesting. SUMA is a very interesting product that I think is making a big difference in many entrepreneurs' lives. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Marty. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to our discussion.
So I like to start with the questions. Obviously, I've done my research, but for the people listening that are not familiar with SUMA, can you give us the elevator pitch? Can you give us a 30-second, 1-minute pitch that you would give to an investor so that the audience kind of knows and gets more context on SUMA and what that company is?
Sure, absolutely. SUMA SaaS is Latin America's leading platform for small business financial management. We have over 100,000 small businesses on our platform using us every day in order to emit electronic tax documents, calculate payroll, keep their books, integrate with their bank accounts, and maintain financial control and order over their businesses.
I love that. I wonder what's the origin story? Like, how does Matt get here to start SUMA? How do you see this opportunity in that space specifically? What's the background story that led you to build SaaS business in Latin America and with this specific mission in mind?
Well, like most entrepreneurs, there is, or there was in my case, no master plan. I'm gringo, born in Boston, Massachusetts, and have been doing business in Latin America for the last 25 years, mainly because of a year abroad I did in Argentina when I was in college.
Really interesting.
Yep. I like to say I came from the dark side because I started my career as an investment banker and then worked for private equity investment funds. But for the last 10 years plus, I've been dedicated as an entrepreneur. This is the second company that we built in Latin America together with Riverwood Capital. And for the last 6 years, we've been building SUMA. And, I've had many roles at the company, initially as chief financial officer, and then for the last two and a half years as chief executive officer as well.
I love that. You have an experience in a market that now it seems everybody wants to go into, and now everybody thinks that it's a very interesting market, but you've had so many years of experience there. How do you see the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Latin America? How has it changed over the last few years? What should entrepreneurs know when they go into that?
Yeah, no, I think the entrepreneurs in Latin America are one of the region's strongest resources. There is an abundance of entrepreneurial activity, energy. Seems like everybody is, quitting their corporate jobs and either starting a company or joining a company which is scaling. For the first time ever, there's adequate capital to meet this opportunity, and the markets are growing very fast. There is no shortage of political instability. There's some macro uncertainty as well, but the overall sort of structural trends which are driving internet adoption, e-commerce growth, cloud penetration, are here to stay, are accelerating in many cases. So there's been this incredible momentum, which has been which is started about 4 or 5 years ago, has been increasing, and many successful companies are being built, which will transform the region over the next 25 years.
Yeah, it seems like it was one of the most underrated regions for entrepreneurship, right? Like people were overlooking it, and then the last few years, it's been like, oh, there's a great place there where they do great business, and it was like people that have been there were like, we've been telling you for 10, 15 years, so you guys are just now starting to listen. Which is not easy. It's not an easy market to go into, I'm guessing, coming from the United States and being a foreigner. So how was that understanding of the culture and the business ecosystem for you to come from Boston, go to Latin America and really build your business there?
Well, it's actually not that uncommon. If you really think about some of the most successful companies and fortunes which have been built globally, over the centuries, immigrants have played a big part in economic development, value creation, innovation, disruption. I mean, in Silicon Valley, I don't know the statistics, but certainly, many funded companies in Silicon Valley, some of the most successful ones were, founded by, founding teams that had, first generation Americans. Even in Latin America, many of the fortunes that have been built in this continent or continents over the past, couple hundred years were built, by immigrants, many of them first generation. So, sometimes being an outsider can actually give you either some courage or some new insights which cause you to challenge the status quo. For us, I don't have very much to do with our success. It's really because of the team, but we do try to take a world-class attitude and standard in everything we do for the region. And I think that's something which, from the first day of the project, we really put as our clear North Star, that we wanted to be absolutely with a global mindset, with global standards, world-class standards in absolutely everything we do. And I think for our customers, that provides them with an experience which hopefully goes above and beyond perhaps what they're used to from some of the more traditional incumbents, and that I like to think gives us a bit of a special sauce as we compete in this market.
Right, I love that. Talking about markets, I think something that it happens with Europe, and I think it happens with Latin America, that when entrepreneurs come to that, they think Europe is just one thing and Latin America is one thing. But there's a lot of countries within it that have different cultures, they have different perspectives. And I've seen that you guys have taken an approach of tailoring your service towards each market individually versus providing one market for the whole continent. I would love to hear a bit more about your rationale behind that. What's the thinking behind creating different brands for each country versus doing a continent-focused launch strategy?
Right. No, it's a good point, and a great question. And there's definitely trade-offs to any strategy. I firmly agree with your observation that Latin America is a bit of a mosaic of cultures, of countries, of languages, particularly in our business, which is financial software for small businesses. Each country has its own set of regulations, its own tax authorities. Even within some countries, those regulations and norms vary state by state or city by city. And so we took an approach very early on that one size does not fit all, that we needed to be hyper local in everything we're doing. We do have regional standards in terms of where we set the bar, regional norms in terms of information security, how we build products. We have a very cohesive corporate culture, but yet there's tremendous autonomy and decision-making authority on the ground, which allows each of our business unit CEOs and every single person in our company to feel like they are the CEO of something. I like to say everyone in our business,
right,
in our company, should be the CEO of something. And so we tend to try to be very decentralized in our decision making and our product design and how our customers are interacting with our products.
That's very interesting. So hierarchically, I'm curious how that kind of plays in. Is it like a business unit for each country that then kind of reports to a larger ecosystem of people? Or I'm just trying to think about how that plays in, because we have one brand, and one brand is hard enough to market, right? So when you have so many, I'm just wondering how that kind of plays.
We're learning how to work together. We're learning how to collaborate. We're building sort of a global, what we call global DNA, which is a combination of global and local. And we've moved away from more of a traditional matrix reporting with boxes and lines and dotted lines and all that to something which is really meant to achieve the best of both worlds and that global DNA is a double helix which revolves around itself and actually creates chemistry, right? And what we do is we have very clear authority and decision making for our business unit CEOs. They make all critical decisions regarding everything related to go-to-market, customer experience, people and culture. And then we have some teams which are distributed regionally, actually, with people sitting in Mexico, in Chile, in Argentina, even in other countries in Latin America, and which are building products or supporting those products. For example, our financial team is a regional team. And that requires great alignment. So we try to focus on not who makes the decisions, but how we make the decisions, right?
Right.
And I think that is something which has been part of our secret to our success so far in Latin America.
Yeah, it seems that culture plays a big role in what you guys do, and delegation, right? Because you're playing this different bit of hierarchy. I wonder, as a CEO, when you look at that, how do you manage giving away that control, right? Because personally, for me, obviously, early stage in my business career, but we have a small team of 7-8 people, and that's been one of my biggest challenges. How do I delegate and not focus on everything's controlled by me? I wonder how you've learned to kind of let things go and let people take responsibility and know that you're there if they need you, but they can do their own thing.
Yeah, well, it doesn't come naturally to most entrepreneurs, I can tell you that.
Right.
That ability and realization, because it really is a decision more about yourself than it is about your team. Am I prepared to hire people who are better than me? Can I get people better than me, which some people are not? So can I get people better than me excited to come work for me? And some people are not able to do that. And then, can I get these people aligned towards, a common goal where they actually help set that goal? It's not just that, the founder or CEO happens to decide they want to sail the ship, from Barcelona to Buenos Aires. You have to let the team also in on helping chart that course. And so I think it starts with deciding, and it's almost an existential decision as an entrepreneur. Do I want to be sort of a lone wolf or even the alpha dog here in this pack? Or am I prepared to put my ego aside and form a team that maybe will even take us in a direction that I didn't even know we're going to, and maybe I don't even agree with, but I can go along with. And so, it really is in the end about having the mindset of being a servant leader, rather than having a mindset of being sort of a patron de fondo, or typical sort of high control, high ego founder, and that takes time. It takes reflection, and it takes a decision that you want to be part of something really big, and you want to take your business as much farther than you could take it if you were taking all the decisions yourself.
Yeah, it seems, and I'm starting to say it, but it seems like you've seen that to be a good CEO, to be a good entrepreneur, it comes down more to less about the skills that you have personally, like if you can write or if you are very good with numbers, but more about having good self-awareness and being able to communicate that with your team. Is that how you're saying that kind of your success has come more from than those soft skills and self-awareness and mental game rather than actual technical skills?
Yeah, I'm definitely have no technical skills. I can definitely assure you that. But I think it comes down to more than just self-awareness. I think self-awareness is almost like a precondition.
Right.
It's necessary but not sufficient. First of all, I think what I've seen in many of the successful recipes, at least in Latin America, is you have a founding team, number one. So you have a founding team rather than just a founder, right?
Interesting.
Number two is, I think the founding team is intimately aware of the problem. They have a personal, actual experience with the problem they're trying to solve. And then finally, I think, the founding team has very complementary skills, right? So, somebody is very charismatic and, perhaps very strategic and maybe good at, fundraising or customer acquisition, or, emerges as a natural leader. Usually you have a founding team member who is, quite technical, and very much involved in the product design, product development, product delivery. And then, you need to have a very strong sales, who make, organization usually underneath the founder. If not, very quickly you need to, incorporate a chief revenue officer. And those sort of three legs of the stool, in terms of, the vision and perhaps the charisma and maybe the fundraising, in the C-level of the CEO, an equal partner in the chief product or chief technology officer building the product to solve the needs, and then somebody out there capturing new customers and activating those customers and turning those customers into fanatics. And if you've got those three things, and it comes with being self-aware that not one, almost none of us have all three of those, and none of us can do those three jobs well, 365 days a year.
Right. I love that. One of the things that I've seen you talk before is about bootstrap businesses versus funded business. I know there's venture capital behind it as well. But how do you see that perspective, or how do you see the entrepreneurship ecosystem about the movement with more bootstrap businesses coming up and being easier than ever to really start your own bootstrap business, and also with so much venture-backed money in the market that can fuel companies? How would you help entrepreneurs either decide or see which fits the best for them, and how you have seen this in your own career?
Right. Well, it's a paradox for sure. What's interesting is I don't think there is one right answer, and I think for every company there may be different answers in different phases of growth. So definitely at the beginning, anything you can do to bootstrap your business is better than raising capital, in my opinion. Because once you raise capital, you've got certain obligations you need to fulfill. You have a bit of a gun to your head usually, in terms of, or a ticking time bomb, depending on your metaphor, in terms of how you have to deliver. You start to get on that fundraising treadmill, which just gets faster and faster, and certainly somebody needs to put in some initial sort of cash in order perhaps to register the domain name or something like that. But at least in Latin America, I think the best businesses we've seen, many of them have been bootstrapped at the beginning, right?
Interesting.
And I think there it's really about figuring out if you can solve a problem in a way which is not being solved currently by the market, right? And is that a big problem? And I think there are times for raising capital, right? And generally it's when if you really think about it rationally, you want to raise capital as far along in the process as possible, because you really will be able to attract a more sophisticated investor at a higher valuation, less dilution for the management team. But there definitely are points where capital can allow you to accelerate. That tends to be when you've already got your product built, launched, with paying customers, and you need capital to scale the sales and marketing machine. That capital tends to have very high ROI and very fast payback. capital, which is to build new products, tends to have very low ROI, tends to have very high risk, tends to have very long-term payback. And you can raise capital to do that as well, but it's a different type of raise often.
Makes sense.
And then there comes the geographic expansion part, which is, how quickly do I want to cross borders? Am I ready to compete successfully in more than one market? Perhaps not only capital, but do I need a partner, an investor partner who can help me access new markets if I'm trying to expand to the United States? Should I try to raise money from investors based in the United States who know the United States, for example? If I'm trying to expand to Brazil, same rules apply. And then there are other times when you've just raised enough money and really it's all about getting to capital efficiency and then generating cash, really. Because if you look at the most valuable companies in technology companies, generally they're generating tons of cash. And they're not valuable because they've raised tons of cash. They're valuable because they're generating tons of cash. And I think that's when the tables turn and then you become actually a cash machine, which is, a much better place to be in if you're a technology entrepreneur, for sure.
Totally. Yeah. As a bootstrap founder, sometimes it does feel like we give so much attention to raising money versus making money. But the good thing is that entrepreneurs have options, right? I think that's what's the most important thing at the end of the day. Yeah. I have seen you talk before about how organizations move at the speed of the CEO and your personal growth is needed for the organization to keep moving forward. I was curious, after so many years running companies and doing different ventures, what are some of the challenges that you're going through personally as a CEO? What are some of the things you're still working to improve or refine or continue to get better at? Is there something that's top of mind of like, I'm actually personally working on this and entrepreneurs that are earlier in their career should not be too concerned about things that they have to work on, because we all do?
Well, that's for sure. If you don't have things to work on, then you definitely have things to work on. I think it evolves. I like to say I'm such a bad CEO. I have two coaches. I'm definitely working on trying to be highly focused about what our plans are as a company. We have so many opportunities in front of us, and I think it pays to prioritize. So trying to be very explicit with ourselves, with the board, with investors, even with our customers and partners about what we are going to do and what we're not going to do, I think is really important, and something that I'm trying to improve on, because sometimes if you're not clear on that, certainly you get misaligned vectors, and sometimes it involves difficult conversations. You have customers who are clamoring for a certain new functionality, and you have to tell them it's not in the roadmap because we've decided to prioritize other or partners or investors. So that's number one, is really trying to sort of crystallize the company vision and roadmap in terms of a concrete plan for the next 2 to 3 years. So that's something which I've had to learn how to do, and I'm still learning on doing it. And then really amping up the the velocity of the company, the sense of urgency, the expectations, so that we are not only delivering against that plan, we're overachieving that plan, right? And that also is very uncomfortable, because it pushes people, including me, out of our comfort zone. If we're growing 3% month over month, I want us to be growing 4%, and if we're growing 4%, I want us to be growing 5%. And the team, sometimes they hate that. Sometimes I even hate it, but it's like anything. If you can run the marathon in 2 hours and 30 minutes, then next race you got to be going for 2:25, or and if you can do 10 push-ups, let's go for 20. And if we can if we can play a very complicated piece by Mozart, let's try something for Beethoven, right? And so that is part of our DNA, is never be satisfied, and that doesn't fit with everybody. Some people are very happy to be in their comfort zone.
I didn't think our conversation would get here, but I'm very happy that it did, because this is something that we're dealing personally at our company, and And that's the follow-up question I had for you was, so how do you create that sense of urgency without burning people out? Right? I know it's a very broad question that probably doesn't have a one clear answer, but I found that if I push too hard, maybe we get burned out. My team gets too much pressure on their shoulders. But if I don't create that sense of urgency, we don't go to our full potential. How do you find that balance in the middle?
Yeah, I think it starts with empathy. And I think one of the things that I've learned, and I've really had to work on this, and I've had a lot of coaching on this, is to start with deep empathy for my peers at the company, for my colleagues, and understand, we're all people. We all have a lot of things going on in our private lives, our professional lives. We all have fears and insecurities and goals and egos and ambitions, and to be sure that you're really talking to your team as humans, number one, right, and as people, number one, and understanding that some days are better than others, some weeks are better than others. There's a lot happening behind the scenes, and I don't know anybody, or I haven't met them at least, who can have things really problematic on their personal life but be crushing it at work. Like, I just haven't seen it, right? So I think that's number one. And then number two is, to be sure that people are interested in performing at the same pace, and are really interested in training for and going to the Olympics, because that's what we're training for. We compare ourselves against the best SMB, SaaS companies in the world, and we have a lot of work to do. I mean, I'm not saying we are one of the best. I say we compare ourselves to that, and we have. But you have to build a team that wants to go to the World Cup, that wants to play for. I assume your soccer team is Barcelona, that wants to play for.
I'm a Madrid fan, but
Espanyol, Barcelona, right? Yeah,
Madrid.
So, Madrid. Okay, sorry. Well, who wants to play?
I'm the only Madrid fan in Barcelona.
Okay, fine. But who wants to play in La Liga, right? And not everybody does, and other people, and that's totally fine, right? I mean, I've had very direct conversation with colleagues who are like, listen, I want to work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and sometimes the pace we operate, means that you'll take a Friday afternoon off, but we might have to pull an all-nighter on Monday night, and that's just the way that's just the way it works if you're working on a release of a new product or something like that, right? So you have to be sure you have a team that wants to be pushed, to be challenged, and some people don't, which is also fine, and that maybe a more corporate environment is for them. And then finally, I think you have to lead by example. So, I would never ask, or I try not to ask my team to do anything that I would not do. If somebody's staying late, I'm staying late. If we need to, if it's a very stressful situation and we've got really to operate, I'm the first one, opening the door every day. I'm, and I want to be side by side with them. And in the end, it's like, how much do you want to challenge yourself? Really, it's a question for them. How much do they want to challenge themselves? More than a question for me, how much do I want to challenge them?
Right. I love that. Matt, I think we're running out of time. Final question that I ask all my guests. It's a very selfish question. I'm 25 years old right now, but Matt, if you could take on a time machine and go back to talk to yourself at 25 years old, what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself? What's one thing you'd tell yourself back then?
Bitcoin. No, it's funny. I was anticipating that question, and I guess what I would say is be very careful about taking advice. That would be the advice I would give myself, and the reason is because most people give advice based on their own personal pattern recognition, or based on their own personal. I pushed the button, cheese came out. I pushed the button, cheese did not come out. I pushed the button, I got electrocuted, and those three people will tell you to push the button, not to push the button, based on their own personal experience. So I think it's important to listen to a lot of advice. I think you need to be careful about taking advice, right? And the next 25 years are going to be very different than the last 25 years. So whatever I could have told myself back 25 years ago is not going to help you looking forward, for sure. But I do think talk to as many people as you can. Try to look at what's worked for them, and then create your own recipe for yourself rather than trying to copy what success from somebody else.
I love that, Matt. I think that's a great way to end it. I really appreciate you sharing everything so openly, so transparently, taking your time. For everybody that's listening, please check out my LinkedIn profile. We're going to put it below. SUMA SaaS is a great company. You should please check it out. Matt, again, I really appreciate you being here. This was a great episode.
Thank you, Marty. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and looking forward to continuing to be in touch, and continuing to watch the Latin America tech ecosystem just explode. It's really great to be part of it.
I love that. For everyone listening, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.